You've been exhausted for months. Not the kind of tired where you just need a nap. This is different. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep and you already feel like you haven't slept at all. Your muscles ache for no clear reason. Maybe your mood has been slipping, or you're catching every cold that comes through your house. So you finally go to your doctor, they run some blood work, and they come back with a reassuring smile and say, "Good news, your vitamin D levels are completely normal." And you think, then why do I feel so terrible? I'm Dr. Matt Mason. I'm a chiropractor, acupuncturist, and functional medicine practitioner. And I want to talk to you today about what I call the vitamin D trap. Here's what's happening. When your doctor told you that your levels are normal, they weren't wrong. They were using a very specific definition of normal. But that definition has a problem built into it, a mathematical problem, actually. And once you understand it, everything shifts. Because here's the truth. Normal on a lab test does not mean optimal. It doesn't mean healthy. It doesn't mean your body has everything it needs. It just means you're not in the bottom 2.5% of a population curve. And that's the trap. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why that distinction matters, what the real optimal range looks like, and exactly what to do about it. Let's start with the biggest piece of the puzzle, the problem with normal. Here's where things get interesting. Let me ask you a question. If I told you that 50% of people in a given population have a certain trait, would you call that trait normal? Probably. But would you call it healthy? Not necessarily. This is the exact problem with vitamin D reference ranges. The conventional normal range you see on your lab report, usually somewhere around 20 to 100 nanograms per milliliter, is based on something called a population reference range. This means they took a large group of people, measured their vitamin D levels, and defined the normal as whatever fell within 2 standard deviations of average. In plain English, they took what most people have and they called it normal. But here's the problem. If most people are deficient, then normal just means deficient like everyone else. And the data is pretty clear that most people are in fact deficient. Some estimates suggest over 50% of the global population have suboptimal vitamin D levels. So if half the population is walking around with levels that aren't supporting optimal health, and the lab says that's normal, who's actually wrong here? Well, the system isn't. It's just using a different definition. The conventional guideline was designed to prevent the most obvious severe deficiency states, like rickets in children or osteomalacia in adults. It was never designed to tell you what level optimizes your immune system, your mood, your muscle function, or your long-term health. So when your doctor says your level is fine, what they really mean is you're not at immediate risk of a bone disease. That's a very different thing from your body has all the vitamin D it needs to function at its best. So this brings us to a second misunderstanding, the recommended dietary allowance. The RDA for vitamin D in many countries is around 600 to 800 international units per day for adults. But here's what most people don't realize. That number was designed to prevent deficiency in 97.5% of healthy people. It was not designed to help you achieve optimal blood levels. Think of it like this. If your car's gas tank is empty, you're in trouble. But if the gas light comes on, that means you're at a certain threshold, let's say 10% full. The RDA is like keeping your car from running out of gas entirely. It's the emergency warning light. It's not about getting you to a full tank. And the evidence actually shows that the RDA isn't even that effective for many people. For most adults, to reach a serum vitamin D level of 30 nanograms per milliliter, which many researchers consider the minimum for good health, they would need significantly more than 600 to 800 IUs per day. People with darker skin, older adults, and those with higher body weight often need even more. So the RDA might keep you out of the danger zone for severe deficiency, but it's not necessarily getting you into the optimal zone for health. Now let's talk about what vitamin D actually does in your body, because this is where it gets really interesting. Vitamin D isn't really a vitamin in the traditional sense. It's more like a hormone. It affects nearly every system in your body. First, there's the classic job, bone health. Vitamin D helps your intestines absorb calcium. But without enough vitamin D, calcium can't be properly absorbed and your body has to pull it from your bones. So over time, that increases your risk of osteoporosis and fractures. But that's just the beginning. Vitamin D plays a critical role in immune function. It helps activate immune cells, modulates inflammation, and has been linked to reduced risk of infections and autoimmune conditions. It also affects your mood. Vitamin D receptors are found in areas of the brain involved in mood, regulation, and low levels have been linked to depression and seasonal affective disorder. It's involved in cardiovascular health, insulin sensitivity, and even cancer prevention. So when I say vitamin D matters for your health, I mean it matters for everything. And here's the key. These non-bone functions often require higher levels of vitamin D than what's just needed to prevent rickets. The Endocrine Society, in their 2011 guidelines, recommended a target of at least 30 nanograms per milliliter for skeletal health. But many functional medicine practitioners target 40 to 80 nanograms per milliliter for optimal overall health. And there's emerging evidence to support that higher range for immune function and chronic disease prevention. Now here's a mistake I hear all the time. People think they can get enough vitamin D from sun exposure and diet alone. And under ideal conditions, maybe you could. But the reality is, most of us don't live under ideal conditions. Your body produces vitamin D when your skin is exposed to ultraviolet B radiation from the sun. But in winter, at higher latitudes, or with limited sun exposure, production drops dramatically. And with concerns about skin cancer, many of us use sunscreen, which reduces vitamin D synthesis. Diet is another challenge. Very few foods naturally contain significant amounts of vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and tuna, plus egg yolks and even mushrooms exposed to UV light can contribute, but it's rarely enough to reach optimal levels on their own. So the science is clear. For most people, relying on sun and food alone is unlikely to get them into the optimal range. Nearly everyone requires some form of supplementation to avoid deficiency. Now, this isn't an excuse to stop eating well or getting outside. Those things matter enormously, but they're not always sufficient when it comes to vitamin D. Now, there's a persistent myth that because vitamin D is fat soluble, your body stores it and you don't have to take it on a regular basis. That's not quite right. Vitamin D is fat soluble, which means it can be stored in fatty tissue. But paradoxically, people with higher body fat often have lower circulating levels of vitamin D. That's because the fat tissue acts like a sponge, sequestering vitamin D and keeping it from circulating in the blood, where it can be used by the rest of your body. So not only does extra body fat not guarantee you have enough vitamin D available when you need it, it can actually make deficiency more likely. This is one reason why people with higher BMI often need higher doses to achieve optimal blood levels. What about the fear of toxicity? Some people worry that taking vitamin D supplements is dangerous and that toxicity is common. This is another misunderstanding. Vitamin D toxicity is actually quite rare. It typically requires taking extremely high doses, like 50,000 IU or more per day over a prolonged period to cause problems. The upper safety limit for long-term use is generally considered to be 4,000 IU per day for adults. Those higher doses are sometimes used under medical supervision. That's not to say you should take vitamin D haphazardly. More isn't always better. But the fear of toxicity has, in many cases, led people to be overly cautious and take doses that are simply too low to move the needle. The key is to work with your blood levels, not just guess. Another common mistake is thinking you don't need to test your vitamin D levels. You just take a supplement and hope for the best. But here's the problem. People respond very differently to vitamin D supplementation. Genetics, body weight, age, skin tone, and health conditions all affect how your body absorbs and utilizes vitamin D. So two people taking the exact same dose can end up with very different blood levels. So test, don't guess, really applies here. A simple blood test measuring your 25-hydroxy vitamin D level is the only reliable way to know where you stand. Next, there's no one-size-fits-all dose. Because people respond so differently, there's no single dose that's right for everyone. Some people need 1,000 IU per day to reach optimal levels. Others might need 5,000 IU or even more. The right dose depends on your starting level, your body composition, your genetics, and other factors. This is one of the biggest departures from the conventional medical model. The conventional approach often treats vitamin D as a one-size-fits-all nutrient. Take the RDA, you're good. But individual biochemistry varies enormously, and dosing should be tailored accordingly. So what does optimal actually mean? You might be surprised to learn that even among experts, there's ongoing debate about what optimal actually means. So for bone health and fracture prevention, levels around 30 nanograms per milliliter may be sufficient. But for other outcomes, immune function, cancer risk reduction, cardiovascular health, higher levels may be beneficial. Some research suggests levels of 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter or even higher are optimal for disease prevention. So what do you do with that? First, aim for at least 30 nanograms per milliliter. If you're below that, you have work to do. But if you're still in that 30 to 40 range and you still feel symptoms, fatigue, muscle pain, mood issues, consider working with a practitioner to push higher. Some people feel dramatically better when they get their levels into the 50 to 70 range. Does vitamin D work alone? Here's the thing, and this is something I want you to really pay attention to. Vitamin D doesn't work in isolation. It needs partners to do its job. Magnesium is essential for converting vitamin D into its active form. If you're low in magnesium, and many people are, you could be taking all the vitamin D in the world and still not getting the full benefit. The vitamin D just sits there, unable to be properly used by your body. This is why I often recommend a high-quality magnesium supplement alongside vitamin D. Magnesium glycinate or malate are well-absorbed forms that support this conversion process. And so magnesium itself supports muscle relaxation, sleep quality, and hundreds of other enzymatic reactions in your body. So it's doing important work on its own too. Vitamin K2 is another key player. It helps direct calcium into your bones and your teeth rather than letting it deposit in your arteries. So if you're raising your vitamin D levels but not getting enough K2, you're potentially creating a different problem. So K2 is found in fermented foods like natto, sauerkraut, certain cheeses, as well as in grass-fed dairy and egg yolks. But getting consistent therapeutic amounts from food alone can be challenging, which is why a K2 supplement is worth considering along with your vitamin D. Now, this isn't about taking a handful of pills and calling it a day. It's about supporting your body's natural physiology with the raw materials it needs to function. Now, before we get too focused on supplements, let's talk about the foundation. Your body makes vitamin D more efficiently when you have adequate cholesterol. It's the precursor molecule. So a healthy diet that supports balanced cholesterol metabolism is important. That means healthy fats from sources like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and fatty fish. Getting morning sunlight on your skin, even 10 to 15 minutes, can support natural vitamin D production, circadian rhythm, and melatonin production for better sleep. It's not a replacement for supplementation in most cases, but it's an important piece of the puzzle. And here's something many people don't consider. Your liver and your kidneys are essential for converting vitamin D into its active forms. So supporting liver health with a whole food diet, adequate hydration, and minimizing alcohol and processed foods matters more than most people realize. So what do you actually do about it? Okay, let's pull this together into something practical, because I know you didn't just click on this video just to understand the problem. You want to know what to do about it. Step 1, get tested. You need a baseline. Go to your doctor or use a reputable lab service and get your 25-hydroxy vitamin D level checked. This is a simple blood test, and it's the only way to know where you actually stand. Step 2, look at your number critically. Don't just accept normal as the end of the conversation. Ask what your actual level is. If you're below 30 nanograms per milliliter, that's a yellow flag. If you're below 20, that's a red flag that warrants real attention. Step 3, supplement intelligently. Based on your starting level, your body weight, and your symptoms, consider a dose that's appropriate for you. For many people, this means 2,000 to 5,000 IU per day of vitamin D3, the form your body uses most efficiently. But again, this needs to be individualized. What works for your friend might not work for you. And I recommend vitamin D3 over D2 as it's more effective at raising and maintaining blood levels. And I prefer liquid or soft gel forms with a fat base since vitamin D is fat soluble, and it absorbs better when taken with a meal that contains some fat. Step 4, don't forget the cofactors. Make sure you're getting enough magnesium and vitamin K2. A good multivitamin can help, or you can focus on foods rich in these nutrients: dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and fermented foods. But if you're addressing deficiency, targeted supplementation is often the most reliable approach. Step 5, retest. After 3 to 4 months of consistent supplementation, check your level again. This will tell you if you're on the right track and allow you to adjust your dose accordingly. Some people need to go up, some people need to go down, and you won't know which you are without the data. Step 6, don't forget the basics. Good sleep, stress management, and a whole food diet all support the endocrine system that regulates vitamin D metabolism. This isn't just a replacement for supplementation, it's the soil that helps everything grow. So remember this, your vitamin D normal might be a statistical illusion. Don't confuse what's average with what's optimal. The goal isn't just to avoid deficiency, it's to support your health, your energy, your immune system, and your quality of life. So one practical first step is to call your doctor's office today. Ask for your most recent vitamin D lab result. If you don't have one, ask to get tested. Knowledge is the first step toward meaningful change. If you found this helpful, hit the subscribe button. I'm Dr. Matt Mason. I'm here to help you think differently about your health and get better results. And if you're looking for professional grade supplements similar to the ones I use in my practice, I've linked to my Designs for Health dispensary in the description below. So feel free to take a look. If you haven't seen my videos on magnesium, the nutrient that makes your vitamin D work, you're going to want to check that out now. Because if you're missing that piece, all the vitamin D in the world might not help you. I'll see you in the next video.